Turning now to Chief Meteorologist Tammie Souza because of breaking news, a tornado warning, Tammie.
Yep, we do. We have this storm. I just showed you this storm and said it was capable of producing a tornado. We now have a tornado warning on this storm until 11:30 tonight. This is the storm that is headed toward Coatesville and Westchester and Cannett Square. This is coming out of Terre Hill. This is right on the edge of Berks County, and it is moving into Chester County. So you need to take shelter if you're in the path of this storm. Get away from the windows, get into the center portion of your house. This storm is going to be moving through at about 45 miles an hour to the south and the east. It's also capable of producing quarter-size hail. So here we go. Let's take a look at where we're going to be. If we can go ahead and put up the track of who's going to be in the path of this. We know Coatesville and Westchester. Let's take a look. We have Beartown at 11:08, Burdell at 11:17, Coatesville at 11:24, Downingtown 11:30, and Unionville at 11:34. Again, moving to the south and the east. It is moving right along Berks County and into Chester County. It's a pretty strong storm that has been strengthening all evening. What you see here, right here, if we stop it, you see this red right here that we see moving toward, well, past Beartown, and it's headed toward Barnestown. We are looking at what's known as a couplet. Now, this would indicate, when you see the greens right next to the reds, that we have inbound and outbound winds. That would create the spin. So this is the radar indication that potentially this is going to be able to spawn a tornado if it hasn't already. Again, let's go ahead and take a look at the image of the tornado. You can see there have been damage. These are the shear tracks. There has been a damage path from wind from this particular storm, and this goes way back to north of Harrisburg. So this goes back for at least 30 to 60 minutes, and this storm continues to produce damaging winds. It does have hail associated with it as well. So right here where you see this red box, that red box is the tornado warned area. Again, we're looking at near New Morgan. You're not in the warning, New Morgan, but right in the center, right here, this is where we're looking for this storm headed off to the south and the east. So Westchester in the path of this storm, Coatesville in the path of this storm, Cannett right on the edge of the path of this storm, Downingtown in the path of this storm. This tornado warning is until 11:30 tonight. Let's go ahead and put this storm into motion so we can take a little bit better look at it as it moved into the area. You can see it strengthening. You can actually see that core. There is probably hail associated with it. This has been traditionally a hail-producing storm, and it does have the lightning associated with it. We're seeing that lightning really intensify now. So this storm is moving into a favorable air mass, and it is intensifying. Let's go ahead and stop that now and go ahead and put our tracker on so that we can let everybody know exactly who's in the path of it. Again, we know Coatesville is in the path of. If you're Limerick, you are not in the path of this storm. If you're in Wilmington at this point, if this extended out, you would be. But at this point, what we're looking at is Coatesville, Beartown, Burdell, Downingtown, and East Marlboro. It's moving off to the south and the east, and it is moving at about 45 miles an hour. So the storm is moving very, very quickly. Again, damaging winds have already been produced by this storm. It has produced tree damage off to the west of our area, and it has produced hail. Now, you notice this red against the green. We are looking at several radar sites coming in because there's not one radar site that is located right next to this storm. So we're taking all of our Doppler radar sites and we're focusing them in, and you can see where you get this bright red next to the bright green. That's known as a couplet, and that's where you would see the inbound and the outbound winds that you would expect when you have rotation in a storm. Now, there's a lot of shear. That's something we talk about in the atmosphere. We see the winds spinning from one direction at the surface to another direction aloft, and we also see them increasing with height in the atmosphere. And that is something that is very favorable for the development of tornadoes and spinning mesocyclones, which are spinning thunderstorms that you would get tornadoes out of. So right here, this is just off to the south and the west of New Morgan. So New Morgan, you're on the edge of this storm. You may be getting some lightning, but you are not in the path of this tornado warning. Again, we are watching this storm moving off to the south and the east at 45 miles an hour. Beartown, Coatesville, Downingtown, Newland, East Bradford. So the best thing for you to do if you're in the path of this storm, Stay at the interior of your house, lowest level of your house. Don't go near the windows and don't go outside, because even if this does not drop a tornado down in your neighborhood, it could have damaging winds. We could see trees going down, power lines going down, windows possibly being blown out, because this is capable of 60-mile-an-hour winds or greater. So you can see the storm is building back towards Pottstown, but that is not where the tornado warning is. This large yellow gold box that you see is a severe thunderstorm warning with this storm. So yes, damaging winds are possible outside of this reddish pink box. That is the tornado warning. But we could see large hail for you in New Morgan and even toward East Nantmeal and East Whiteland. But again, Coatesville, Westchester, East Marlboro, you're going to want to take shelter. Also Downingtown, you're going to want to take shelter as this storm moves to the south and the east. Let's go ahead and lift that off and take a look now at perhaps that shear track again, so we can see exactly where the damage path has been. It'll be very, very small where the damaging winds have been so far, and you can see this green track. So we call that the shear track, the wind swath on the ground from this particular storm. And you can see it just moving parallel to Berks County and headed right in to Chester County. Now, the warning that we have on this storm is until 11:30 tonight. What we have here is our volumetric scan, so we're going to have to get this kind of scooted over for you. And the storm itself was up above 30,000 feet. And so if we slide that across here, we'd be able to kind of get a slice, sort of a slice through the middle of the storm. And the bottom line is this storm has a lot of hail associated with it. It also has lightning associated with it. So here we are with the storm. The cloud tops up around 40,000, the storm itself at about 30,000 feet, and here you can see the core of the storm right here, and the darker shades of red would be the hail. It looked at one point as if this had already dropped a lot of its hail, but lightning is very indicative of a storm with a lot of hail, and we're seeing the lightning increase, so potentially the storm is re-intensifying. It's moving into a very favorable air mass, because today much of Chester County was not affected, so that's why you see that western edge and southern edge of Berks County and into Chester County. So let's go back to the cone now. Who is in the cone with this storm? You can see the tornado warned area is out on the edge of Westchester, and you can see the storm moving off to the south and the east. Again, this is moving at about 45 miles an hour, and it is moving to the south and the east. This is a storm that could produce a tornado. There is a warning on it. This is a storm that has large hail and damaging winds associated with it already. So you can see the center of the storm over the warned area. We would expect that if there is a tornado associated with it, it would be in this little area. If we can stop it right here, you would see just a little bit of a wave to it. So we would expect that we would see that right in that area, that's where we would see perhaps that couplet that we talk about, those winds in opposing directions. So as we watch this storm with lightning moving off to the south and the east, and we broaden it out a little bit, you can see across the area that this is pretty much the only storm at this point that we're concerned with. We will be watching the storm that's moving out of Harrisburg. We'll see if that affects all of you in northern Delaware, but right now this is it. These storms formed late this evening. They were 5, 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock. They formed on a line. This is the cold front driving all of this through central Pennsylvania. The storms earlier today were from a giant cluster out ahead of the cold front. This is the cold front driving these storms. So right here is what we're looking at. We have this couplet. If we can go ahead and back it up just a little bit. There we go. We have this couplet where you see the greens and you see the reds, and they are side by side, so that creates a bit of a spin, and usually you can see it just a bit more clearly, but we've got all of our radar beams coming into the middle of it because this is at a distance from all of them. So right in this area, now if we flash on top of it and stop it where the storm is, we'll be able to kind of get an idea of where we have that storm warned area. So if we put the radar image up right now, you can see it's right in this area that we're concerned with. That's the area that we would expect to see perhaps if we have a funnel coming down, it would be in this area. Now we've seen this warning. This warning now, it's a two-part warning as it moved into Chester County. It's still existing in Lancaster County, but it's now extended to the south and the east into Chester County. So Westchester right on the edge of it. You can see right here we have Pottstown Pike, and you can see the 322. We can see I-76 running right up along the edge of this. So anybody that's going to be headed out, and even you can see Route 30 there, you can understand why it's important to stay indoors. Don't be heading out right now until the storm is past. We don't want you caught in the middle of the wind, especially at night. And you need to go down to a central room in your house. We just spoke about this. Go into the basement. If you're in a high-rise building that is in the path of this, which is not as likely because this is a bit more rural, but if you are, then you'll want to go to a bathroom, a central room. You'll want to stay away from those windows because even lightning can shatter windows, the booming of it, and you don't want any hail hitting the windows, and you certainly don't want any damage coming through your windows. And just whatever you do, don't even try to go outside and take a picture of something, because after dark, it's almost impossible to see a tornado anyway. So here we go. We're watching this move right along the edge of Berks County. Now, Berks County, you're just about in the clear from this thing. This is now into Chester County. So we're looking at that storm beginning to clear Berks County and moving completely into Chester County. We're also watching the storm itself moving into Montgomery County, but that's not where we have the warning. The warning is for Chester County. We have a severe thunderstorm warning that is over into the edge of Montgomery County. We don't have any indication of this shifting into that area. Instead, we're watching this part of the storm, the concerned part of the storm with the tornado warning. It's moving off to the south and the east. So Modena at 11:19, Romansville at 11:23, Newland 11:25, East Marlboro 11:29, and Connett at 11:33. That's if this warning stays intact. The warning is until 11:30, but they could extend it out, which is what they have done. You see an original warning here in Lancaster County, and then they extended it into parts of Chester County. So we can see that right here, the edge of the thunderstorm warning associated with this is riding right up along the edge of perhaps Delaware County and also Montgomery County, but it has not moved into Montgomery County. Instead, it is just Chester County that is squarely in the middle of all of this. Let's go ahead and take an idea of where all of this is going to be going, especially the severe thunderstorm, once it starts moving out of here. We're looking at Coatesville and Downingtown right on the edge of this storm. Still lightning associated with this storm. And again, damaging winds, that's the big possibility, along with a tornado with this storm. It's already produced hail and damaging winds. So whether or not a tornado drops from this storm, it is yet to be reported. This is radar indicated, but there was spin with this. So when we started the newscast tonight, we didn't have the tornado warning, but we knew there was spin. That's why we wanted you to know this was capable of doing this, and it certainly is. So now we actually can take a look at what's going on. You can see the brighter shades of green back in here and the shades of red right next to it. So we do still have winds going in the opposing directions. And now this is very close to Barnston and Brandmore, headed toward Bondsville, Coatesville. It's eventually going to move right past you. So these are the areas that we're watching very, very closely. You know, you can always get our app, our NBC10.com app, and you can tap on it. And if you do have a tree go down on your house, if you hear this going by, you can upload what you hear. We don't want you going outside. We don't want you taking pictures. We want you to be safe and sound inside your house if you're in the path of this storm. Let's go ahead and put the radar image back up if we can and take a look perhaps at the lightning that's associated with it and overlay what's going on with that tornado warning. Here we go right here. So this one has been dropped off for Lancaster County, which is no surprise. The storm isn't in Lancaster County anymore. It's now squarely in parts of Chester County. The storm itself, part of it is expanding out and headed into parts of Montgomery County, but we don't have any warning for Montgomery County. The gold box is a severe thunderstorm warning. So anywhere in the gold box, which is basically all of Chester County except the far southern portion of Chester County and just that area up towards Pottstown and Limerick, where Chester County meets Montgomery County. The rest of the county is pretty much under a severe thunderstorm warning. Again, damaging winds to 60 miles an hour, large hail. Both of those things with this storm have already occurred. The tornado warning right here, let's go ahead and put a track on it if we can so that we can see who is still in the path of this tornado warning. Now, they have not extended it out, which is a good sign. We're looking at, it's 11:18. This goes until 11:30 tonight. But we are looking at Coatesville, 11:23. East Fallowfield, all of you in East Fallowfield, 11:25. Newland at 11:31. We're looking at East Marlboro, 11:35. And Connett at 11:39 is where the central portion of this storm will be. Let's go ahead and take a look at the tracks, the shear tracks, just the wind swath, damaging wind swath that we've seen from this. And you can see it moving now toward Coatesville, and it continues. Now, these are damaging winds that have been measured by radar and in some cases reported. And you can see it's a very straight line, and it lines up with the track of where the storm is going. So moving through Coatesville and headed toward Westchester. At this point, that's where the storm is headed. Now let's overlay that with the hail tracks with this storm, because quarter size or larger hail could be possible with this storm. And you can see a very clear hail track taking place with all this, just right past the edge of Berks County and into Chester County at this point. Let's put the radar image back up now and take a look at the storm, take a look at the body of the storm and where it's going and if it's beginning to sort of fall apart yet. And it doesn't look like it is quite as intense. We still have a tornado warning, so we still have to be very worried about that. The tornado warning is now starting to edge eastward, so you can see that if you are on that western edge of Chester County where it meets up with Lancaster County, you're no longer in a warning. They have kind of edged that away. They're continuing to keep this storm as it goes eastward under this warning, so there is still some concern that there could still be a tornado possibly in there. So Beartown and Supplee, these are areas that we're watching. Brandmore, down to Downingtown. Romansville, you're not on the edge of this. Coatesville, you are on the edge of this. And again, we're watching inbound and outbound winds. So this particular storm is rotating, and we watch for a very tight couplet of winds that would tell us that perhaps this is where the center would be, where there would be possibly a tornado signature with this storm. Let's put our radar imagery back up and take a look. So let's scoot that back up a little bit to take a good look at it. And let's take the warnings off and take a look at the storm itself. We do have lightning. We have a number of lightning strikes that have been associated with it. And it's still a fairly intense storm, and you can see it. However, it is now starting to spread out, which is a good thing. We want this thing to move into the calmer air mass that the storms from earlier this evening created. So as it does move toward all of that, it looks like it is beginning to de-intensify. Still, we do have a tornado warning on it, and you can see this well-shaped center on this storm. So damaging winds, they're very possible with this storm. We could get both damaging winds and perhaps even an isolated tornado. So you can see this is where we have our tornado warning until 11:30. That's what we're looking at. And let's go ahead and zoom in a little closer and put a track on that if we can. And I don't think we've gotten any damage reports from this yet. They may start rolling in. If we start getting damage reports, we'll let you know. But at this point, the storm is moving past Coatesville. So Coatesville, you're on the edge of it. So if we did have any sort of a funnel, any sort of a tornado, it would be right in this area. So you're still not in the clear, Coatesville, but we are looking at Goosetown, Romansville, and Altor between 11:27 and 11:38. So this is continuing to move to the south and the east. The good news is they have not extended the tornado warning, so they're looking closely at this, thinking maybe that this is beginning to diminish. It looks like it is beginning to diminish to me. However, the warning is still in place because you want to exercise caution. Sometimes this will spin down a secondary funnel, and even if it has funnels that are dropping, you don't want to take a warning away from a storm that's this intense. So we still have lightning with this storm. You can see the storm really spreading out now. It's beginning to rain itself out, but the tornado warning is until 11:30. We have a severe thunderstorm warning associated with this. So if you're in that area, if you are anywhere from Coatesville to Westchester, Downingtown, you want to go to the central room or a basement in your house, you want to go to a bathroom or an interior room in a high rise, stay away from the windows. And if you do hear the roar, if things start to shake around you, cover your head. But at this point, we just want to make sure you stay inside. Now, I'm going to toss it over to Jim and Jacqueline, find out if you have a little bit more information you're going to share with us at this point.
We're just going to recap, Tammie, what you've been passing along so you can gather new information. But again, this tornado warning hit just as we were about hitting the air. And here are the tips from the National Weather Service. This is a detailed list of what you should do if a tornado hits. If you're inside your home, you should go to the basement, a safe room or an interior room away from the windows. Now, if you're at work or maybe you're at school, obviously nobody's at school right now, but follow your tornado drill. Get to the designated tornado shelter as soon as possible.
Also advised, stay away from windows, as Tammie has reiterated, and don't go into any large open rooms. You want to always steer clear of those where there are those windows. Potential for danger. If you are outside, seek shelter inside immediately if you are in these areas in the path of this storm. Sheds, storage facilities are not safe. We cannot stress that enough. Also, being inside a vehicle is not safe either. The best thing to do is to drive to the closest shelter and seek shelter there. If you're unable to do that for some reason and you are in your vehicle, the advice is to get down in your car, cover your head, or abandon the car and seek shelter. That shelter should be in a low-lying area, such as a ditch or a ravine. Again, there is a tornado warning in effect until 11:30 tonight for Chester County. 45 miles per hour. This storm is moving to the south and east.
Yeah, and as Tammie has been mentioning, this storm has damaging winds that are capable with it. Let's go back to Tammie for the latest on what we know right now about this tornado warning. Tammie.
Well, we still have the tornado warning until 11:30, and you can see that for central Chester County. So that includes you in Downingtown, Westchester, Coatesville, anywhere where you see that pink box. But we have now added to the severe thunderstorm warning. So the storm may be beginning to try to rain itself out, but we have now added a severe thunderstorm warning to parts of Newcastle County, Salem County, Gloucester County, Camden County, Philadelphia County, and Delaware County. And I believe that is until, is it 11:45 or midnight? Midnight. That's my colleague, meteorologist Steve Souza. So we're both working this storm so that you'll get the latest information. So all of this is still traveling off to the south and the east at about 45 miles an hour. This storm, regardless if this puts down a tornado, is capable of 60-mile-an-hour winds. It has already had a wind swath, a damage path that we've been showing you that has moved through Lancaster County from north of Harrisburg to where it is now. Also, quarter-size or larger hail associated with this. Now, we're concerned that trees could go down. We're concerned that power lines could go down. And of course, some of you may be streaming on your phone. That's a good thing to do. If your power is going to go out and you're in this area, you can download our app. You can follow the radar. You can follow what's going on your phone at this point. That's one way to stay in touch because power always goes out at the worst time. So damaging winds and hail possible with this severe thunderstorm warning. Here we have the tornado warning. We still have a lot of lightning associated with this. Steve, can we put a tracker on where the tornado warning is right now to remind people of the path and where it's going to be? We do have that warning for the next 4 minutes. They may extend it, they may not, but they have extended a severe thunderstorm warning out ahead of this entire system. So we're looking at Downingtown at 11:27, East Marlboro 11:29, Altor at 11:30, East Bradford at 11:33, and Kennett at 11:34. This is where the tornadic part of the storm is expected to be. So that's where the storm is going. Now you can see New Morgan, you're already in the clear. We're actually trying to take a look at what's going on with the gate-to-gate shear is what we call it, the couplet with it. It would be right in here where you see the brightest red and the brightest green. So right in that area. So now we're looking at something that is moving past Coatesville and past Downingtown, the center of rotation from this storm. And we have all of our radar beams that are focused in on it. We have 4 radar beams so that we can get a good idea of what's going on out in that area. It's a bit of a rural area, so a little harder to get a handle on because you don't have a radar sitting on top of you. So we have to beam them all in to take a look at it. So we have the severe thunderstorm warning, and this is extending off to the south and the east in anticipation of this storm rolling through. Look at this thing. It's going 45 miles an hour, and this is going to be moving through Concord and Wilmington, West Deptford. It'll be moving right along the edge of Philadelphia County and through Delaware County, through Chester County, into parts of Salem County, Gloucester County, a little bit of Camden County. So we're looking at Concord at 11:32, Wilmington 11:39, Chester 11:43, West Deptford 11:54, and Washington Township at 12:04. We have the severe thunderstorm warning until midnight with this particular system. So we're continuing to watch this storm roll through. This storm does have rotation. It has a history of large hail, and it has a history of damaging winds. We have not seen the tornado warning extended further off to the east, so in 2 minutes we'll see if that is going to be dropped or if they're going to go ahead and extend it. We do know that they have extended a severe thunderstorm warning because that is expected to continue to produce damaging winds and hail. Whether or not a tornado, and they have the gate-to-gate shear for that, that is something we'll have to look at the radar to see. But the storm looks like it is spreading out, and it looks like it is losing a little bit of its intensity, nonetheless still capable of some downbursts, some microburst winds. Here comes the storm. So here's a bit of a history of it as it comes rolling into Chester County, and you can actually see the most intense part of the storm here. So on the back end, it's getting a little bit more ragged. We still have some intense lightning with it. The front end is beginning to rain out, so you can see that the rain is beginning to really spread out with this system. It's beginning to cover a large portion of the area, even some light showers into Philadelphia at this point and up toward King of Prussia. The number of lightning strikes associated with it right now are 3, but at times we've had several dozen associated with it at any one period of time. So we're continuing to watch this as it moves through. We don't have any other storms that we're concerned about at this point. There were some storms that were actually moving past Lancaster that we thought would actually clip the northern portion of Delaware, but those are nowhere in sight. So let's take a look. Now, there you go. The tornado warning has now been dropped with the storm. So as I suspected, this is raining itself out, but it still has hail associated with it and damaging winds. So you can still get a microburst as this storm begins to collapse. It can just drop all that air and hail out of it, and that's what creates so much damage. So Springfield at 11:36, Wilmington 11:39, West Deptford 11:49, Deptford at 11:54, and Washington Township at 12. And again, Springfield, you're on the edge of this. We're also looking at a little portion of Philadelphia County, all of you in Delaware County, a little bit of Salem County, Gloucester County, and Camden County associated with this. So from Westchester to the edge of Philadelphia, to Washington Township, to Alloway, we are looking at this, and right through Wilmington. This is now a severe thunderstorm warning associated with this. The tornado warning has been dropped. Don't expect to see that reissued, but we're keeping a very close eye on it. But we do have the lightning and the hail that is associated with this storm as it continues to move off to the south and the east at about 45 miles an hour. So that's good news, that this is now like starting to rain itself out and spread out. Let's take a wide view and see what else is out there. You can see we still have a few small storms forming on the backside. We have another one that's moving toward Reading at this point. That one at this point is not severe. All of these storms forming on a cold front, and they formed this evening between 5:30 and 6:30. They popped very quickly, made a line across the central portion of Pennsylvania, and they have a history of damage throughout Pennsylvania. So there are a number of other storms that are not going to hit our area. You can see them sagging to the south of Harrisburg, and they're probably going to rain themselves out as they head into Maryland. Maryland had an EF1 tornado reported between Baltimore and D.C. earlier this evening. So we still have no reports as to whether or not there was a tornado indeed with that tornado warning. We probably won't know until tomorrow as reports start coming in. But the severe thunderstorm is now moving past Philadelphia. It's going to be exiting Chester County in the next 20 minutes or so, moving into Delaware County, northern parts of Newcastle County, Salem County, Gloucester County, Camden County, as it heads off to the south and the east. Now, there are some damage reports, I guess, multiple trees down in Lebanon Township, and that's in Lebanon County, which is just off to the west. And you can see the track from this storm. These storms have been wind producers that have damaged trees. They've dropped a lot of hail, and there's a track that goes all the way across the state. The damage that you see down near the bottom of your screen, if you can see any of those near Baltimore and D.C., that's from the storms that occurred earlier today. So these are not associated with this particular storm. Let's back this up and put another track on this if we can, so we can show everybody where this storm is actually going so that they'll be aware of that in the next, say, 20 minutes or so. We'll just take it out about that far. That way everybody will know. And we want you to stay away from the windows. Jacqueline and Jim just did a fantastic job of explaining what you need to do. And it may sound silly to say if you're out driving, but how many of us pull over in our car and what do we have? We have our cell phone. We pull it out and we're streaming NBC10. Well, that's a good way of keeping up on it, and we want you to be safe no matter where you are. If you're in a car, if you're at a kid's ball field, or if it's the middle of the night and you're in your house in Chester County, now moving into Delaware County and parts of Philadelphia County, and also Gloucester County, Camden County, Salem County, and Newcastle County. So 11:37 for Chester. It'll be 11:40 in Wilmington, West Deptford at 11:53, Deptford at 11:58, and Washington Township at 12:04. That's the path of this storm. The good news is if we take all of this off and just look at the storm, the radar reflectivity of the storm, you can see this is beginning to really spread out. That's great news because it means it's raining itself out. It's dropping its hail. Yes, there could be some wind gusts associated with this, and that's why the warning is there. But this is really beginning to spread out. It's losing some of its intensity. It's moving into where we have marine air in place, and that's going to undercut it, and it's going to kill this storm pretty quickly as it moves through South Jersey. So we'll continue watching this storm as we head through the remainder of the night. If anything else pops up, of course, we're going to be here. We're going to let you know about it, and you can always get the latest on our app. You can actually download our NBC10.com is where you can get our NBC10 app. And I only tell you this because if you don't have alerts pushed to you instantly, it's a great way to get them. I have it on my phone, so I know about an alert the second it happens. So for one last look, let's take a look. Moving off to the south and the east at 45 miles an hour, 60-mile-an-hour winds, quarter-size hail, all possible with this particular storm. And this is going to be moving now through parts of Delaware County, a little bit of Philadelphia County, Camden, Gloucester. And this is going to be moving now through parts of Delaware County, a little bit of Philadelphia County, Camden, Gloucester, Salem County, and a little bit of Newcastle County. Of course, we're going to keep you updated on this. You can get the latest online at NBC10.com, and you can also check out everything on our app, and we will have the latest recap on any damage, anything that's happened when you join us tomorrow morning for NBC 10 News starting at 4 a.m. We'll see you then.
And again, that